audio mic check. Mitchell. Hi, Mitchell. How does it sound? Cool.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
Hey, you too. Good to see you, John.
John said that traffic.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're getting started in, well, now. We're trying to get started now. Is there anybody else left in the, great. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I am KBCW News Director Ashton Edwards, so thank you for being here. In case you're in the wrong room, I just want to let you know that this is the Summit County Council primary forum for Districts 4 and 5. If you're here for anything else, this is not where it is. The plane's not going there, so now's your chance. Okay, the park record, as you can see in KPCW, we are going to be your hosts this evening. And up here with me, we have park record reporter Peter Hernick and KPCW Summit County reporter Connor Thomas. I want to thank the Summit County staff and the Sheldon Richens building for hosting us tonight here. And I also want to thank the candidates for joining us. We have everyone over here. Christie Babalis and John Kucera are running for District 4, the Central Snyderville Basin, and Canice, Harte, and Meredith Reed are running in District 5 to represent Pinebrook, Jeremy Ranch, and Summit Park. We are streaming this live at kpcw.org, so I would ask that you could please hold all of your applause until the end. That would be appreciated. So over the next hour and a half, we are going to hear from these Democratic candidates in the primary election. Some questions will be for all candidates, others will be district specific, and we're going to have time for a few audience questions. So if you would like to ask a question, Amber is back there. There is a table with papers and pencils. You can fill out your question, and then she will bring them up here. But if you could do that closer to the beginning, that would be greatly appreciated. And we'll get to as many questions as we have time for. Right now, well, write a great question, and hopefully we can add it to the list. Okay, candidates will alternate who answers first, so everybody gets a chance to go first, not one person getting the same question first or different questions first every time. We are going to start with opening statements. You will have 2 minutes for your opening statement. 2 minutes for your opening statement. Okay, and we're just going here in alphabetical order by district. So first we'll start with Christie. If you are ready, we'll start your 2 minutes whenever. We'll start your 2 minutes when you start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and thanks for being interested in this these council races. I have lived in District 4 for 30 years, almost 30 years. I was born and raised just minutes away from my current house, and like all of us here, I care about my community. I've served my community from the minute I moved here, through volunteer services, being on boards, being part of Rotary, leadership, but also my entire career has led me to a place where I am prepared to serve on the council. My career has spanned about 30 years being an executive in executive leadership, a problem solver, a negotiator, and an attorney. All of that experience has, it means that my days are generally filled with solving complex problems. I am faced with complex issues every day where there are competing interests, two parties that don't necessarily want the same thing, and where there are long-term consequences at stake. And I bring those parties together, and I find solutions to the problems when there isn't always a great answer, and the solution isn't always going to make both parties happy. That's what I do every day of my life. That's what the council does. And I feel like I have the right experience to be leading this council into the future with the very complicated issues that are currently facing us. And I appreciate your support so much. Thank you.
Okay, John?
Thank you. Yeah, my name is John Kucera. I'm a Utah native. I've lived in Silver Springs for over a decade with my wife and 2 school-age children. We're raising our family here, and we're staying for the long term. I'm running because I'm passionate about this community, and I absolutely love where we live. Like so many of you, I'm here for the outdoor environment, the natural beauty, wildlife. I think that it's special and unique, and that it is absolutely worth fighting for. I also believe that we're at a critical moment for the county. As many of you are aware, we're facing tremendous growth pressures and increasing financial complexity. Let's see, sorry, you're losing my track record. But I do believe that experience and track record will absolutely matter. I served 6 years on the Snyderville Basin Planning Commission. I was the former chair. I have experience in land use and planning. And I worked extremely hard to listen to residents, to mitigate impacts, to address community needs. I voted against Dakota Pacific, and I opposed overdevelopment. Professionally, I have a background in finance. I lived and worked in New York City as a financial analyst. I currently run an investment partnership, but most importantly, I have experience as a fiduciary, putting the best interest of others ahead of my own when acting on their behalf. I think that's critical for anyone going into a political role, and it's much of what council does. I'm excited to talk to you tonight about the big issues, talking about managing our growth challenges, protecting the natural environment, addressing traffic and transit, of course, doing what we can on affordability. I look forward to speaking with you all about that. Thank you for the opportunity to earn your support.
Okay, Canice, when you're ready.
Thank you, and good evening to everybody listening and everyone here tonight. My name is Canice Harte, and I'm honored to serve as your Summit County Council Chair and the representative for District 5. I'm running for re-election because I believe Summit County is one of the most special places in America, and I want to make sure it stays that way. My wife, Katie, and I have lived here about 20 years. We're raising 2 daughters, Penelope and Fiona, that have gone through our public school system and thriving, and we choose Summit County because of the open spaces and the rural character, the outdoor lifestyle, and a strong sense of community that we find here. So this is our forever home as well. Public service has been a guiding principle throughout my adult life. It began when I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I was in the infantry, 3rd Reconnaissance Battalion, and it continues to this day with my service with the county. Council, and I believe elected office, is about listening and working hard on behalf of the people you represent. Over the last 4 years, I've had the privilege of serving on the council and currently as the council chair. During that time, I've worked to protect open space, preserve our quality of life, and address some of the county's most important challenges. I helped establish the Summit County Housing Authority and to create local solutions for our workforce and families. I was part of the team that negotiated and secured the preservation of the 910 Cattle Ranch, and one of the most significant open space achievements in our county's history. And just recently, we announced the preservation of Highland Flats open space, a property ensuring another important landscape will remain protected. Looking ahead, my priorities are clear. We must continue protecting open space and preserving the rural character of Summit County. We must continue improving transportation and reducing congestion so residents can spend less time in traffic and more time with their families and communities. And we must remain responsible stewards of our taxpayer dollars while delivering the services our residents expect. This election also brings about experience and stability. At least one new council member will be joining the council, and fresh perspectives are valuable, but so is experience. And as the current council chair, I'm already engaged in the work and understand the issues before us, and I'm ready to continue serving on day one. Thank you.
Okay, Meredith, whenever you're ready.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Meredith Reed, and I'm running for Summit County Council because I believe strong communities require thoughtful leadership, effective government, and a commitment to service. Service has been the through line of my life and career. I served as an Air Force chaplain, supporting service members and their families through some of their hardest moments in their lives. And professionally, I've spent my career leading teams, managing complex projects, and helping organizations solve difficult problems and navigate change. Today, I serve as the president of the Park City Board of Education, where I've experienced firsthand how effective leadership impacts organizational effectiveness, the individuals who are serving in that organization, and our community at large. Effective governing boards improve outcomes through strategic planning, accountability, and a focus on results. My husband and I chose to make Park City our home 17 years ago because we fell in love with the vibrant character, the stunning natural landscapes, and the incredible tight-knit community of neighbors who live and work here. Summit County faces important challenges. We must thoughtfully manage our growth, create housing opportunities for working families, maintain the infrastructure and public services that our residents rely upon, and preserve the natural environment and quality of life that make this place so special. I'm running because I believe we can do all of these things. We can plan for the future while protecting what we love about this community. We can build partnerships, listen respectfully, and make decisions that reflect our shared values. I'm running for county council because I believe Summit County deserves principled, collaborative, and truly accountable leadership. I'm ready to bring my experience to the council to protect our community character, manage our growth responsibly, and to ensure our local government works for you. Thank you.
It was well timed. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the lightning round. These are shorter questions. Each of you will get to answer, and we're looking about 15 seconds for an answer. Some will be yes or no, some will be very short answer. And this time we are going to start with John. You will answer first since Christie started the others.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, to begin, should MIDA have a role in future Summit County projects?
No, I don't believe so. We need to retain our local land use decision-making ability. We need that to plan for our future. I think that's critical, and I would advocate for local control wherever possible.
All right, Canice?
That's an absolute no. We want MIDA nowhere near Summit County, and we would do anything to keep it out of here.
I'm with my fellow candidates, an emphatic no. And I think more people are becoming aware of the problems that are inherent in the structure of the MIDA arrangement.
No, they've proven their lack of transparency in projects around here.
Okay.
Starting with Canice, what is the most concerning development proposal facing the county right now?
It's not a development proposal that's active, but it's the threat from the governor for these, to the municipalities. This idea of a preliminary municipality that the governor can weaponize so that they can create cities on Browns Canyon. If you're looking up at Wanship, when they had like the Cedar Crest overlay. So it's not something that we're processing currently, but by far and away, that's the major concern.
Meredith?
I would share Canice's sentiment, and that we are looking at projects across the state that are impacting local communities that they object to and that they didn't get a decision in. So I think that threat at large is the problem.
Up to 3,000 units in Browns Canyon and any other project that usurps our local control.
Yeah, I think Browns Canyon certainly is the largest, but I would say that any application that proposes transformative growth, I would be against.
All right, on the flip side, what is the most promising development proposal in front of the county? Starting with Meredith.
Is it Six Ridge Partners? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I was getting the updated name on. I would honestly say the most promising project is Six Ridge Partners, formerly known as Dakota Pacific. It has a lot of really good components that benefit our community, to include a new transportation center, a new library, public gathering spaces, access to transportation that will improve the traffic flow here.
Christie?
The projects that are redevelopment of existing projects like Junction Commons and things at Kimball Junction, because I believe that we should redevelop with infrastructure that's already in place rather than looking at development on raw land where there is no current infrastructure.
I'd say any development with a cautious and incremental approach. I think I don't see any currently. The outlets is certainly an opportunity, but the size and scale are concerning. I would say Dakota is coming. We need to make it the best project that it can possibly be, and I would be supportive of that. There is no going back, and so ensuring that all of the benefits arrive and hold to account. So,
Could you repeat the question?
The most promising development proposal.
We haven't actually improved, other than Dakota Pacific, which obviously the state forced on us, we haven't approved anything new since 2015. And the only two things that the county is considering right now is something called Klein Dolly, which is over by Jeremy Ranch Elementary School, and Junction Commons. I think the Klein Dolly is the most interesting because you have Mountainlands Community Housing Trust and Habitat for Humanity looking at building housing there, and that would be interesting to see what happens.
Starting with Christie, should Summit County help fund Park City's senior center and a new recycling facility?
Should Summit County?
Should Summit County help fund these?
Well, there are obviously community benefits, and I think that if the funds are there, and we'd have to carefully look at the funds that are available, I think they are important community benefits.
In terms of the senior center and recycling, I think, if Summit County's getting use out of it, we should certainly participate. Senior housing is important regionally, so I would be for, considering it. I think the amount, the magnitude, and the impact, especially for Summit County residents, is important to consider. So those would be the things that I would consider, but certainly worth looking at.
We're currently funding both. We donated the land for Recycle Utah, and we will continue to support Recycle Utah. They're an incredibly important partner to our community, and we'd be really lost without them. We are also supporting the senior center. We provide services there now, and we will continue to do so. Currently, the city is changing up what they may ask of the county. There was one point they wanted us to help build the building. Now they're thinking about building the building themselves and having us provide the services, which we're up for.
Yes. I agree. I mean, part of the recycle center is that both of these things are done, but that we're running out of space in our landfill. We need to divert as much as we can from our landfill so that we extend the use and don't put things in the landfill that don't belong there. So absolutely, we need to improve everything we can do for recycling in the community. And the county is already set up to support senior services through programming. So we should absolutely be part of that.
Okay, thank you. Now we are going to move on to general questions. These you will get 90 seconds each to answer, and these will be for everybody. So you all get a turn to go, and we will alternate as we did before.
All right, so I believe we're starting with Christie now. John, sorry. Other than managing growth, what should the county council's priority be for the next 4 years?
Other than managing growth, well, I think one that is often overlooked is the natural environment, preserving and protecting our most critical assets. This is the number one reason that residents and visitors alike want to be here. So we need to look at, leveraging open space dollars, taking care of water quality, availability, again, wildlife, preserving the green natural environment that makes us so special. So I think that would be a big focus of mine. We can't take it for granted. And I would, have that be a major focus outside of growth.
All right, Canice.
Thanks. Well, I'll steal John's answer just so I can build off of it. I'm the open space liaison, so for me, a clear priority is open space. There isn't really enough for me that would fill my desire for open space. But we need to be selective in where we do it, because as we're building open space or as we're preserving it, we're also driving up housing cost. So that's why I was part of creating, along with Tanatoli at Park City Municipal, the Housing Authority. And so we need to find selective places that we can do infill projects around affordable housing. So it's a balance of trying to preserve as much open space as we can, figuring out where we can get smart, affordable housing projects. At the same time, when we look at the safety and well-being of the people in Summit County, one of the things that's greatly affect everyone right now is the economy, the cost, inflation. So I've never voted for a property tax increase or sales tax increase, and I will continue not to do so. I believe that we have plenty of money in the county budget to manage ourselves appropriately, and we'll stay focused on that. So the safety and well-being of the people of Summit County, open space, and trying to find affordable housing solutions where we can get them.
Meredith?
Would you mind just restating the question one more time?
Just other than managing growth, what should the county's priority be for the next
Thank
4
you.
years?
I just needed that other than managing growth part.
Yeah.
Well, the county in the county plan and priorities said that affordable housing was a priority for this county, but we really haven't seen that happen. And I think we all know, if you came here before COVID, the housing prices then versus the housing prices now, it is prohibitively expensive for families and for young working people to be here. And that degrades the character of our community, the resources that we have of people to work and provide the services that we need here. And it disconnects them from being involved. When you commute an hour and a half, we have educators that come from far, far afield, and same with our law enforcement. We really need to be able to say, we want you as part of this community, so much so that we're willing to put our money where our mouth is and make that happen.
I would like to see us pass our general plan and then enact ordinances that give that plan some teeth, and that's going to then guide every other decision that we make in the county and put guardrails around what we're doing for all of the important decisions.
John?
Oh, am I back again?
Oh, wait.
I'll take another crack at it. I feel like I left a little on the table, so try to hit that later, but thank you.
No, Peter.
Starting with Canice, what is the biggest lesson Summit County should take from the Dakota Pacific saga, and how should the county respond when the legislature inserts itself into local land use decisions?
We must always continue to fight to assert local land use control. Having the state, or whether it be the federal government or any outside body, try to tell us what we should do with our land is just fundamentally wrong. And it's something that we should always fight for, and we'll always continue to fight for. Where we got really hamstrung when it came to Dakota Pacific was after the Supreme Court made the ruling that essentially said we don't have the ability to, we didn't have claim to, I'm blanking on the word right now, but essentially they took away our ability to fight the lawsuit. Thought we were winning based on the idea that we had a contract in place through the form of a development agreement. And once we realized that that wasn't going to happen, that something was going to physically be built here, and it was really just a question of how much say we had in it, that's when we pivoted and switched to how do we try to make the best out of a really bad thing. So if that's going to happen, and if someone in the state does interfere, then we need to be able to work with our state leaders. We need to be able to build relationships so that we can control the outcome of that as much as possible, which to a large part is what we did with the project that you're speaking of.
I think communities across Utah, with the proposal of the data center in Cache County and the municipalities declared in Wasatch County, other counties are becoming aware that the legislature might just very well do something serious in their communities that they object to. And this is not a partisan issue. These are just people issues that they want to be able to have a voice in what happens with their local development. And I think we should capitalize on that opportunity that we have presented to us, that it's not just a Summit County issue. This is a Utah issue, and strengthen those relationships that we have with UAC. And also, we have to work with the legislature, even if we object to what's going on there. That's the situation that we're in, and we need to build those relationships and make sure that we communicate clearly what our priorities are here in Summit County.
Well, legally, the state has broad authority over cities and counties, unfortunately in some situations, but so fighting them isn't always going to be effective. I think what we have to do is build relationships, engage very early, build coalitions with other interested parties, like other counties that are going through the same things we are, with the state legislature coming in with a heavy hand, and proposing solutions, alternative solutions to the state, so they aren't viewing us as just saying no back to them and then even getting more upset with us and coming back and proposing more developments that we don't want.
Well, Dakota Pacific was obviously a lightning rod. It was the largest development I've seen in the 14 years that I've been here. I stood with the community. I actually voted on Planning Commission with Canice against the project, articulated the rationale why. At this point, it's tough to go back and look at it again. What I would say with respect to the legislature is we need to use every tool at our disposal. So that starts with building relationships, that's going down to the courthouse, expressing our vision of why we believe the natural environment, the green space, the unique nature of Park City and Snyderville Basin is so special. There's no other place like it in all of Utah. We have the Olympics coming. We need to send that message. Additionally, we need to engage the public. I think last time, it was a little combative. It was the first time the legislature came. We need to include everyone. We need to evaluate our infrastructure leverage opportunities. You have water, sewer, police, a variety of ways that we may be able to work. I think beyond that, we need to thoroughly evaluate all legal options. Make sure, we've talked to County Attorney Margaret Olson, our state was founded on local rule. It's critical to our deciding our own future and planning for our future. So I would use all tools available and try to strike on all fronts. Thanks.
This one is starting with Meredith. Summit County has set a goal to create 1,500 units of affordable housing by 2035. How will you work toward that goal or revise it?
Well, I think with some of the projects that are going to be underway soon will help meet that goal. And then I think when we look at new projects coming along, like Klein Dolly or the redevelopment at the outlets, we can capitalize on those opportunities to expand our options for affordable housing. And I would also add that it needs to not just be rental. We need to have deed restricted ownership of housing as well.
Christie?
Can you repeat the question?
The goal of 1,500 units of affordable housing by 2035, how would you work toward that or change it?
Well, they certainly wouldn't reduce it, and I think that there's actually might be even some more than that proposed, and what I think is really important as it relates to affordable housing is defining what is really affordable and who can actually afford to live in those affordable units. There's a lot of definitions of what's affordable, and it depends on the jobs the people have that work here, and we need to use deed restrictions and other means to truly make the housing that we do have proposed affordable and bring the people that work here so that they're able to live in this community.
This is a tremendous challenge. It's not unique to Park City or the Snyderville Basin. This is a countrywide issue. In every mountain town, we just had city tour at Torrin. This is pervasive. So my approach would be to address existing entitlements. We have millions of square feet that are entitled. We have an opportunity to shape those and improve those, affect affordable housing, get an increase in the number of units, and also lower the AMI so that people making less money have an opportunity to live here, and we have a complete community. I think fundamental to that is taking a cautious and incremental approach. We have a lot coming with Utah Olympic Park, has affordable housing. We just did Slopeside. There's Lincoln Station that came online a little while ago. We have Dakota Pacific, major development. The outlets we're talking about, Klein Dolly. There's a lot coming. I think we need to absolutely learn from what we're doing and do a check back and make sure, number one, are these units absolutely getting to those that we are intending? And if not, we need to self-correct. So those are some of the things that I would be looking at when we're considering affordable housing. I would also put it this way. There are many urban environments and there are very few mountain towns. We need to preserve and protect what is here and not fundamentally change what we're doing. I'll just add, if you look at Heber and Wasatch County, there's a tremendous amount of development. Park Record just the other day, they're still having an affordability issue. So we need to understand that we can't build our way out of this. We need to take a cautious and incremental approach and absolutely do everything we can where we can.
Well, thank you. First, I should point out that the 1,500 units is excluding the Dakota Pacific and the Junction Commons projects, Klein Dolly. So the 1,500 is beyond those, not just with those projects. But if you think about the fact that we do have Slopeside, which is being built, those are the large buildings at the base of the canyons that you can see, and you do have now the UOP, which is going to be putting affordable housing and another building up there for their athletes. You've got obviously what's going to happen on the ground here, and then we have the Junction Commons, which may or may not happen. Council's not committed to that, and Klein Dolly, which is in process but also questionable. I think we need to wait and see how these turn out before we start considering building any more. I would also say I disagree with the idea that and I voted against it at the time with the council, but I do believe all the buildings in Dakota Pacific project should be counted towards that 1,500 units. You can't just ignore buildings that are going up. You have to look at the whole picture. Fundamentally, in the general plan 2.3 says let's not give any new entitlements until we draw down on the density that's already been given out. And that's where we need to stay focused on. I helped craft that in the general plan, and I still stand by it. Let's draw down what we have, let's figure out where we're at, and let's make sure we don't rush to overbuild and build our way out of this beautiful place that we love.
Starting with Christie now. What is your plan to address worsening traffic, and what role should public transit play compared to road improvements?
Well, I think our housing and our traffic are related. Part of the traffic issue, 70%-ish of the people that work in our community commute from outside of our community. So fixing our housing issue and creating more affordable housing so that the people that are commuting here can live here will significantly help our traffic issues. You know, bus rapid transit is currently putting in an extra lane so for emergency vehicles and the Bob that's going to help immensely. But we have to do a cultural shift to get ridership up to where it needs to be. We need to get people out of their cars, and we need to make our communities less car-centric. But this is such a car-friendly place. And you know, you go over to Kimball Junction, and it's a big parking lot. You go over to Junction Commons, it's a big parking lot. A lot of the old development was very much developed around making it really convenient and easy for cars. I think if we can change our culture a little bit and get people out of cars and make it really convenient for people to get on transit and fix our housing issue, then we will have made a huge step towards our traffic issues.
You know, traffic's been kind of the issue since I moved here 14 years ago, well beyond that, and will likely be an issue when I'm not here anymore. The difference now is we're spending millions of dollars on solutions. We just issued a $92 million bond for bus rapid transit. We're spending millions annually through High Valley Transit. We need to be vocal, particularly here in District 4, as we are the epicenter of some of this congestion in Kimball Junction, 224, about what is working and what is not working. We need to adjust funding priorities and shift gears to make sure we're getting solutions that we're paying for. So that's, you know, sort of number one. I think number two, the reality is that not everyone who lives here wants to work here, and not everyone who works here wants to live here. So I've talked to the chief of the fire department. Many of his employees, now maybe fire's different, but we pay top wages in Park City. They want to go live where they get more space, more bang for the buck. Similarly, people who, you know, want to live in a beautiful place in Park City, want to work in financial services in Salt Lake, that is going to always have an impact. So I think we need to look at things with the Olympics coming. We have infrastructure opportunities, you know, certainly that UDOT flyover where traffic that's heading to Kimball Junction goes to Kimball Junction, and traffic that's heading to I-80 goes to I-80. It's an expensive fix, but certainly is worth looking at again. I would look at that. I would, again, evaluate the bus rapid transit, really push back on, is the ridership there? I've met with Kim Carson and Caroline Rodriguez from High Valley Transit, and that would be a big focus of mine. I think I have one more thing, but I want to use my time, I guess. Well, there it is. Get back to me if you have any more questions.
Yeah, I think if we could solve traffic, we'd make everyone quite happy. But, you know, for my part of this, I was on the board of High Valley Transit for 3 years. I was on the Bus Rapid Transit Subcommittee, and I've been on their Finance Committee. I'm also the representative for the Olympics for Utah 2034. So these are all things that we're actively working on right now. Currently, you're about to see, so you're seeing right now in 224, that's bus rapid transit that's being built. And what you're about to start seeing later this summer is the interchange around 224 being updated. Essentially, it's just going to go to each of these turn lanes will be 2 turn lanes in each direction to try to keep traffic from backing up in the through lanes. But Mayor Dickey and myself have met recently with our county and city managers to prioritize our asks. What you'll find around the Olympics, and what you get with the Olympics isn't money. They don't just come in and do things like that, but what they will do is expedite or speed up projects. I can tell you that right now we're in serious negotiations about looking at the 224 interchange to further improve it, the Highway 4080 interchange, and the 248 interchange. So all three are things we're looking at. Park City is going to be adding in bus rapid transit as well, so you're going to see that along 248. So that's the bus rapid transit, which the most interesting thing to me about bus rapid transit is it runs every 10 minutes. So it's about changing behavior. But if it's easier for someone to drive a car, that's what to do. And that's why High Valley Transit added microtransit to try to get them to the bus stops. We've got to keep in mind, though, as well, that Wasatch County affects what's happening in Summit County. So we have to lay in infrastructure now for the next 10 to 20 years.
I think we have a very effective program with High Valley Transit, and we just, to build on what Canice was just starting to talk about, we need a regional approach. This isn't just a Snyderville Basin or Park City issue or Summit County issue, because whether or not our neighbors want to admit it, like, our futures are tied together. We are very much, our prosperity, our success relies on us collaborating with our communities that are around us and building in systems that serve all of us. So I think, unfortunately, UDOT doesn't proactively respond to traffic challenges. They come in after after things have been developed, after things have been built, and then they do that work. But we have a lot of good groundwork to continue to build on to improve.
All right, starting with John. The county is considering, or will be considering, significant housing projects at Klein Dolly and in Browns Canyon. What standards must these projects meet for you to support them?
Well, I think they're actually two very different projects. With Klein Dolly, we're looking at a public-private partnership that, the county wants to participate, create affordable, create mixed use. I think, those are worthy. I think, my overarching view on growth and these types of developments is we need a cautious and incremental approach. Residents are not asking us to go out there and take excessive risk, transform to solve our problems. The challenges that we're trying to mitigate are very complicated. There is no silver bullet. So, obviously, I worked on the general plan when I was a planning commissioner. It was updated last in 2015. That's 11 years old. I was working on it when I was doing it for 6 years. It still hasn't been updated. The facts on the ground have changed. The cumulative impacts of the developments that are coming need to be incorporated with our decision making on anything new. So, particularly with Klein Dolly. In terms of Browns Canyon, we're talking about 3,000 units that I think, by any way of looking at it, just doesn't fit. And that's from very high level. I'd obviously review the development agreement, look at the complexity, balance the fine details with the big picture. But we need to plan what fits, what makes sense. That's incremental. We need to keep this vibrant mountain town community and the rural nature of the place that we live. So those would be some of the aspects that I'd look at.
Connor, can you repeat the question?
Just with regards to Klein Dolly and Browns Canyon, housing projects proposed there, what standards do they need to meet for you to support them?
Thank you. I can tell you just one point of clarification. The county and the council is not considering a project at Browns Canyon. There was talk about forcing a project in there, but the county is not part of that, nor do we want that. So that's not something that we're considering. Klein Dolly is the interesting one. It's land that the county owns. It's that space I was saying right by Jeremy Ranch Elementary and the Burt Brothers, if you will. And the partners that are at the table for that, really, with Mountain Lands Community Housing Trust and Habitat for Humanity, Park City Fire District would be working on a space there, and Basin Rec would potentially have some space in there. I think if it goes forward, because it's not a done deal, but if it goes forward, let's see how that comes out, see what the private-public partnership there actually does produce, and then evaluate if we want to replicate that model. So that's an if it goes forward, let's see how it does, and then see if we go forward with something. Browns Canyon, no way, we don't want it.
I'm just going to focus on Klein Dolly. I think we talk about significant public benefit, and there's a debate on what entails, what does that look like, what's significant public benefit. I think some of the things that have been proposed for that project would check those boxes for me, to include the new fire station and the Basin Rec. That I think anybody who uses the field house knows that it's kind of maxed out. And getting access is a challenge for either the fields or the equipment that's there. And so if we can give other areas to relieve the pressure and give our community more access to those benefits that the county provides, I think that's great.
Klein Dolly and Browns Canyon, those are two very different projects. I absolutely do not like the idea of Browns Canyon. I know there's not a proposal currently before the county. I would hate to see that be the next project that gets forced on us by the state legislature or, another tool. There are other tools available like MIDA that are available to developers to do projects like that, and I would really hope that we wouldn't do that again. That's raw land, there's no infrastructure there, there's no evidence that there's water available, so I don't like that project. Klein Dolly is one of those projects where there's already a lot of infrastructure there. I'd rather see that project, and I think there's a lot of benefits from that project, but I'd rather see something like that where there's already existing infrastructure and there's already development than taking a piece of raw land and expanding out, expanding development out into new areas.
Starting with Canice, Summit County's budget now exceeds $100 million. What should the county spend more money on? What should it spend less money on? And when would you raise taxes?
We don't need to raise taxes, so I don't see that as something in my time on council, and hopefully I can get reelected and continue to stay focused on that. We have plenty of money. We're doing quite well. We actually just implemented 2 sales taxes, one that the voters voted for, which is the emergency services sales tax, and that has alleviated the pressure on the general fund greatly. So we're in good shape there. And then there's another tax which I voted against, which is the what do they call the resort community sales tax? It has a new name right now. Impacted community sales tax is the new sales tax that the council voted for. And that money doesn't show up on that $100 million budget because it's all transportation. So there's an additional like $15, $18 million that sits on the side, if you will, that is focused on transportation. So we have plenty, and we've instituted all the tools at our disposal. One of the things that the emergency services sales tax is doing is it put $4.5 million directly into our fire and EMS systems. It's also providing for new ambulances. So just like everybody thought it would do, it's helping fund that. It also put $3 million into our landfill so that we can build out a new cell. It's also put money into our roadways. Anything that's impacted by tourism, it's been helping. So those are huge wins that we have. So I guess the short sum of this is we don't need to raise taxes. We have plenty of money right now. And any budget that comes before the council that includes the sales tax increase, the first question we're going to have is what are you going to cut to get this back on budget?
In terms of what the county should spend more on, I think in addition to affordable housing, one of the things that we really need to focus on in this community is care for seniors. We do not have any senior housing available in this county. We do not have any health care for seniors. And we have an aging community, folks that have been here for years, people that want to stay here. They don't want to have to go somewhere else. They have relationships. They're part of this community. And unfortunately, speaking from my own parents' experience, my parents are in their late 70s, things can be going fine and then they're not. And we need to be able to serve our aging community, our seniors, and be able to provide more services and housing for them.
So I have been told that open space is a want, not a need. I'm all for spending more money on open space. I know that the county has some budget left for open space, and it's open space from the open space bond, and I would like to see us identify those parcels soon and purchase open space, because once it's gone, and it's not coming back, and I think that's a critical issue. It's not the only thing I think we should spend money on, but it's certainly one. Since we have the money, we should spend it, and I have some ideas about parcels. Taxes, you asked about taxes. Before considering any new tax increase, I believe the government has an obligation to demonstrate that existing resources are being used efficiently and that taxpayers are receiving value for the dollars that they've already paid. And I don't see any reason to increase taxes, especially since, as Canice said, we have plenty of money. Unless, of course, we needed emergency services that we couldn't afford.
Let's see. Yeah, in terms of taxes and raising taxes, this should be an absolute last resort. Residents and businesses are at a all-time critical moment for affordability. We need to recognize that. We also need to do more with less, bring efficiency. We can't do everything for everyone. What we do, we need to do well and do right. I'll bring, 2 decades of financial decision-making experience to council would be my goal. I have a background as a fiduciary, considering financial impacts, and I think that's important. I think also fiscal responsibility, regardless of the issue you're talking about, there is a financial component. If we want to do something, we have an initiative, there is a cost, and it should be evaluated, and those questions should be asked. Whether you're doing a municipal bond offering, capital expenditure, you're deciding on financing decisions, those are important questions to be considered, and I would try to bring that. With respect to, I think leveraging the dollars we have, we do have about $16 million left of the $50 million that was issued in the open space bond in 2021. Similar to what was done on the 910 Ranch, that was exemplary. We took $40 million of other people's money. We were able to partner it and get a great asset. I think we need to really consider that when we're spending the money and make sure that we are getting absolutely the best opportunities, with where our dollars are going. Not all opportunities are alike. We need to evaluate them, ask tough questions, and that's what I would try to bring.
All right, starting with Meredith, what's your vision for recreation, conservation, and wildlife on the 910 Ranch?
Well, I'm fully supportive of the plan that is there now. Jess Kirby recently presented to Rotary, and I know she's given a lot of community presentations. It's a limited expansion of the trails access. It utilizes some of the existing buildings that are already there. Most of the land is not open for public access or recreation. It would be by permit only. So I know that Jess is a consummate professional. She has years of experience in this plan. Part of the money that was received that John just referred to for that grant meant that we had to continue to allow public access and recreation. And I think continuing that limited vision for what would be available is the correct way to go.
Personally, I would like to see the 910 primarily preserved the way that the owner sold it to the county with the intention of it being a wildlife preserve. If there's going to be some use, I have some concerns. It's very close to several million people. It's a lot closer to a large public group than even Bonanza Flats was, and I think it's going to have the opportunity, if it's not restricted in its public use, to become overrun with the public. If we start to build a lot of parking lots, those parking lots are going to get filled and a lot of people are going to show up there. I'm for some minimal use on there, but primarily I'd love to see that. I'd love to honor the owner's desire of having that be a wildlife preserve.
The 910 Ranch is an incredible piece of land that was saved, over 8,500 acres. It was the largest open space acquisition in Summit County history. In a $55 million purchase price, we received $40 million from the U.S. Forest Service. There's a conservation easement. We need to abide by that. My general sense is this land is going to be here a lot longer than we will. We need to take a very cautious and incremental approach. We need to learn the lessons from Bonanza Flat, Round Valley. This is a sanctuary for animals, wildlife, water, again, our most critical assets. I think that's where we need to start. That was the council's intent when we started looking at it, and that would be my approach. Pretty much to do the bare minimum, that complies with this conservation easement. We want to, apply, go with the intent, but make sure that, once you do something, you can't go back. So I would take a cautious and incremental approach, and have it be dynamic. I think that's part of the three-phase plan that's been promoted by Jess Kirby. But again, as a counselor, I would say, let's go with the most cautious and incremental. People have, look, I'm a mountain biker, I'm a backcountry skier, I'm a trail runner. I love it all. I would love to do it over there, but this is a place that's special. We should save and tread very lightly. And I think that would set an incredible example.
This is something that's very dear to me. I first reached, when I was on the Planning Commission, which I spent 3 terms on, that's when I first reached out about the 910 Cattle Ranch to the then council. The fact that I got to join the county council and that the 910 Cattle Ranch was a conversation we had, and then I got to be one of the 2 negotiators for making this acquisition, I can tell you what was in my mind when I was leading in those conversations, and that was preservation. That was to protect the wildlife, to protect the open space, and that is what my sole focus is and will remain. We will find ways to let people enjoy it, but right now, taking our time. There is no rush. We can take our time. Once we start opening it up, then it's hard to call it back. But what we can do right now is think thoughtfully, plan carefully, and then take our time and work our way into this. The 910 Cattle Ranch, we have to really be careful it doesn't become a playground for Salt Lake. That is something that remains special to us. And part of what was in my mind at the time when having these conversations was trying to create a buffer of open space around Jeremy Ranch and around a developed area. We don't want to then ruin that by just driving a lot of traffic from the valley up into here. So preservation, let's take our time. We're in no rush. We can open it up slowly when it's appropriate.
Starting with Christie, this is the first election under a district-based council. How will you represent your district while still ensuring you're making decisions that benefit the entire county?
I've talked to a lot of people as I've gone through this process, and a lot of people outside my district, and a lot of folks have the same concerns and issues. I don't think the concerns and issues of District 4 are only unique to District 4, but my goal would be to listen to the people and represent the people. I've heard them talk. I'm aligned with their wants and wishes, and I would protect their interests to the best of my ability.
I think the opportunity with the districting system is that a council person can truly represent the area that they know best. I spend time in Kimball Junction, Trailside, the canyons. I know people from this area. My goal would be to collect the issues and concerns collectively from our district, represent those to other councilors so that they can become informed at the level and the scale of issues that we face to search for solutions. I think that's the first and foremost is you're representing your district. You also strive for win-win opportunities where, of course, if it's a win for District 4, there's likelihood it's going to be a win for the county. I think another thing that's important to consider is sorry, I should look at my notes one more time, that, we have an opportunity to, really share those interests. And then I think, the county as a whole, there's always been tension on the county between how you allocate resources. That's nothing that isn't going to change. You do the best you can. You hold account to the residents of all of Summit County. And I think that managing those both, should be something that council can do. But I would really like to represent the issues that I know best, ensure that other council members are hearing that, and we get solutions for the problems and challenges that we're seeing in District 4. Thanks.
I suppose, I benefit from having run for council when it was general, and then now here I am trying to get reelected when it's districted. The main difference is when you're running, and it would have been great for my counterparts up here, when you're running that first time for the general, for the whole county, you spend a lot of time speaking with the mayors, particularly on the east side. The bigger divide is more east-west, not District 4, District 5. And so now you don't really do that. Now you have districts, so you stay focused in District 4 or 5 or whatever your district is to run for election. But the truth is, the way the county is governed is as a whole. When the item comes before the county council, we don't divvy up in the districts and we don't start thinking about which spot we're focused on. We think about the county, the well-being. We look at our general plans. There's one for the east side and the west side. We have relationships with the mayors of all 6 cities and with people on both sides of our county. Additionally, we have relationships with our counterparts in Wasatch County. We're far more aligned now as a Wasatch back, and we'll have Wasatch County surpass us here in population fairly soon. We're seeing massive growth coming from their side. So it's really, we have to look big picture regionally. We have to make sure we're focused on make sure the east side gets a voice, because the west side now will have 3 districts, and that means it will forever have the power of the vote on its side. So that's why the east side, west side is what's so important.
Nobody asked for House Bill 256, but here we are. So I think the important part, I think we will see changes as election cycles go on. Everyone in Summit County used to have 5 people that they could pick up the phone and call and raise their issues to, and now they're going to have 1. And I think those impacts kind of remain to be seen as we go through more and more council members getting elected through this system. as a school board member who comes from a district but represents the whole school board, it's important to think about the shared values that we have across our community and the benefits and the long-term health and success of the whole county. And hopefully our voters will continue to elect people with that priority in mind. That's what I have, and that's what I hope that we see going forward.
All right, this one's starting with John. What does Deer Valley's East Village expansion mean for Summit County and its tourism, labor, taxes, or hotels?
There are a tremendous number of impacts, coming from obviously the Mayflower, Deer Valley, but when you think about, Wasatch and Heber, there's just transformational growth, an incredible amount of development that has impacts that have far-reaching, implications. So, we need to incorporate it with our planning. We need to, work regionally, collaborate, make sure that we're reaching out to the heads of Park City, Wasatch County on how we can, attack some of those problems. In terms of, obviously there are issues with labor demand. A lot of the supply is coming out of Heber. Why are they going to drive to the canyons or, some parts of Park City to work there with traffic? There may be some labor implications there. I think we need to monitor it. I think the biggest lesson that I take from it is that we need to be really careful. It is totally transformational. It is changing the way of life over there. And I would really hope to not replicate it. I don't think we need to keep up with them. I think we have tremendous facilities, infrastructure here. We need to focus on that, and it shouldn't be a sort of 6-star hotel arms race between these different jurisdictions. So I would work with them. Transit's a big one. Talking with High Valley on moving people where we're getting people out of cars for those long distance travels. That sounds interesting, but the numbers need to be there. It needs to be fiscally and financially responsible. So those are some of the things that I would look at, but certainly far-reaching implications to be very monitored.
Hey, Connor, can you repeat the question for me, please?
Just the impact of Deer Valley's East Village expansion on Summit County.
Like, what is the impact on Summit County?
What do you make of it?
Yeah. The numbers would be scary, but Wasatch County has approved 23,000 units around the Jordandale Reservoir. State average of residency per unit is 3.08. So if you just think about that in the terms of people, they've approved 13 hotels. So what you see over there right now with the Hyatt is 1. And then right behind it right now, it's just up there recently for the Economic Summit, and the Four Seasons is fairly well along the way, but 13 is what's been approved over there. Now you have MIDA looking at going into Hideout and what they can do with their development. So when you talk about the impact on Summit County, it's profound. And when we think about the traffic that we see at 4080 interchange and how far that backs up right now, or just think about all those people that now say they live in Park City, right? Because actually Deer Valley East got the 60 zip code, and when if you look up like Google, you're going to get Park City. So it's Park City 84060 in Deer Valley East. So they're going to be going into town and looking for dinner, and we like the idea of business, but now you're jamming up 248, you're jamming up interchanges. So it's a profound impact, and that we are working for right now on these transportation solutions. Also, almost think about it like a defensive perimeter. What do you do out at Quinn's Junction to provide services there so people don't need to come into Park City to go to the grocery store? They're either going to run down to Heber, or if we can get something out there. So we're trying to do the same thing around by the Home Depot. Like, how do we get services there so the people in Silver Creek Village, which is 1,190 units, that's already mostly built, but how do we keep them from having to go to, say, Smith's? So we need to have services where the people are at, and we need to continue to work with our counterparts in Wasatch. Thank you.
I think the impacts are huge, and there's many dimensions to this, to include workforce. If you're coming from Wasatch County, and you could stop there to go to work versus driving into Park City or Snyderville Basin for work. So how are we going to meet those demands? I also serve on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce, and this is something, if groups are coming in and staying at these giant conference center hotels, are they going to even come into Park City or just take a bus ride for an afternoon and then get back on the bus and go home? How does that impact our businesses? How does that impact the economic development in Summit County because of what's happening there? And we don't have the answers to those questions yet. And Stuart Adams' vision for Deer Valley East was a self-contained place where someone could come and stay for 2 weeks and never leave. And that, if that comes to fruition, I think then we really, really need to see what are we doing and how are we developing our own response to that. That isn't building, but provides the resources that we need here without diminishing what's happening.
So I've always wondered when all of that development over there is going to be looking at a big empty dirt pit because there's not enough water to sustain all of that development. That development is huge. It's going to have huge impacts on Summit County. I liken it to the Canyon Spa that was passed in 1999 with 8 million square feet of density that right now is only 50% built, and we're still feeling the effects of that, and we're going to continue to feel the effects of that. And I wonder how many of us look back and wonder if that was a good decision to put all that much density right there. And I similarly think that Wasatch County is probably going to be in a similar boat. Probably won't take 25 years for them to look back and say, wow, that might not have been a good decision. They might be doing that in 2 years or in 1 year, but it's going to have a huge impact on Summit County. And I don't know that we even know what that impact is going to be, other than the obvious, like traffic, and people are always going to want to come into the historic Park City and be part of that. So it's going to impact our roads significantly.
Starting with Canice, I think. What impact is ICE having on life in Summit County, and what role should the county play?
So the question is, what impact is ICE having on Summit County? See, the average resident may not be feeling it, but I've experienced it. As those of you that don't know, I'm now working as a deputy for the Summit County Sheriff's Office, and I was just out at a job site in Silver Creek Village. Someone's tools were stolen, and there was a dispute. And when I went out to speak with the individuals and trying to get the information to figure out what had happened, their main concern was that they had ICE meetings coming up. And so they didn't want to file the report. And this is one of the challenges when we see this kind of action. Now, we need legal immigration, that's for sure. But when we have people scared and then the reaction is where they don't report crimes, then you'll find predatory behavior on those people. So that's very real. ICE operates independently. They'll notify Park City Police, or they'll notify the Sheriff's Office when they're in the area, but they're not doing it in coordination with them. They don't ask permission. It's more they're just notifying that they're doing it.
I'm going to take this from the perspective of our schools. It's certainly impacting how many children have applied for free and reduced lunch. We've seen the applications for that go down precipitously this year because families are afraid to make the application to get their kids fed. We have children who graduated last year that their parents had been taken away just the week before. We have kids that are scared to come to school. We have families that are scared to come to school and get information that they need, or talk to teachers, or do any of the normal things that other families would feel quite comfortable doing. So while we haven't had ICE in the schools, it certainly is impacting our families that we serve and how they're accessing resources.
Yeah, we talked about building relationships as it relates to the state legislature and working with the county when they want to come in and force projects on us. And similarly, I think ICE could benefit by working more closely with the local community and not coming in with such a heavy hand. I don't have personal experience with ICE enforcement, but I know people that have, and it's created a lot of fear, and it's unfounded fear. It's not unfounded fear, but it's unnecessary fear, because I think that these folks are. ICE is. Geez, I didn't want to get into national politics. I was told there'd be no national politics now. But we have a theme in national politics, and this is how ICE is behaving is consistent with that theme, and I would like to see more collaboration on a local level and a little more focus on being humane.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think council oversight, particularly with federal, state, national issues, is limited. I would say that I would, almost none. But what I would say is that I would absolutely support. We've got great, the county attorney Margaret Olson. We have Sheriff Casey Bates. These are elected leaders that I think that does fall into their purview and how they interact and the decisions they make. They have a lot of latitude, and certainly as a counselor, we want people in our community feeling safe. We want them able to go to school. We want people able to go to work without fear. So certainly any conversation or direction that would be sought by the council, that would be my approach. But we do have some excellent leaders in some of those roles that, Canice being another one of them, that interacts with law enforcement, and where there's latitude to make a decision, we certainly should. Obviously, complying with the law, they need to make the determination on that in terms of those leaders, and council needs to support where and how they can. And so that's how I would approach ICE. Thanks.
What is the single most important action Summit County can take to protect water resources for the future and its future growth? Starting with Meredith.
Limit golf courses. I would love to. Certainly agriculture, we have a history of, as a rural county, of agriculture is a strong part of our history and heritage, but I think we need to, historic water rights are messy and difficult and hard to explain, but we've had if you don't use it, you lose it in Western water law, and we need to find ways to move away from that. All of the Western states are trying to deal with how do we ration more water than there actually is. So I think anything we can do to help promote watering for our agricultural resources that conserves water, or innovative resources. I know that there are some of these things that I'm not familiar with them. I'm not in that line of business, but I do know that those are things that we could encourage and help facilitate that happening. And then, of course, Park City had incentives to get rid of lawns, to do things like xeriscaping. Any new development that would use those types of approaches to landscaping is beneficial, and just making people more conscious of what's going on here.
Yeah, so water is a big topic for me. When I was in high school, I wrote my AP English paper on the misallocation of the Colorado River water in our growing population and drying climate in the West. So water is a huge issue for me, and I'm welcoming the state to finally joining the conversation. We use water differently than I think a lot of people understand. The majority of our water usage is going to agriculture, but that doesn't mean that the other 20 to 30% that is being used by municipalities doesn't matter. I think that we need to change how we think about water. I think we all need to be a part of the solution in being more water conscious. I think it needs to happen in how we landscape, because the water that goes down our drains is not water that's lost. The water that's lost is the water going to our fields and to our landscaping. That's water that isn't making it to the Great Salt Lake. We need to be really conscious about, and whether that means we are enacting ordinances about landscaping and water usage. If people aren't going to do it voluntarily, then we need to do that, but we need to change our culture about and how we view water.
I think water quality and availability are critical, both to quality of life, the place that we are, the economic interests of the Wasatch Back. It is critical. so this is something we need to focus on. I spoke with Jess Kirby, Natural Resources, Director at the county. She said, we're putting together a massive spreadsheet with all of the county water rights. This is important. It was hard to piece them all together, but we need to know what we have. We need to secure those. She, talked about doing more to direct some of that water to the Great Salt Lake. I think things like that, where we have an incremental, an option to make choices, we should. We should talk about agri-purchasing of water. This is a major asset. I think it's worth a discussion. Of course, there's a financial component in various interests, but do we have an opportunity to acquire water rights similar to the way we do with open space, given how important it is to the natural environment, the wildlife, to what makes this place so special? So I would look at that. Of course, you have, xeriscaping, you have, different stuff at the county level, but it is agricultural use, and so I would try to affect that where possible. And so, and then, at the end of all of it, and an overarching lens should be sustainability and conservation throughout to protect the natural environment. It is who we are. It is what makes this place so special. And, that needs to be pervasive throughout code, throughout our decision-making process. And that's how I would approach water and many of these other important assets.
The county's limited on what it can do in the sense that the state makes these laws. So the tools that we really have before us as a county tend to be more around what do we do with our open space purchases, as an example. One of the areas we focus in is waterways, wetlands like the Canice Valley, places that we can really protect. It's always highest on our list. Another thing we as a county are currently doing is every time we're making one of these land purchases, we're buying up all the water rights to that land. And that's something that we're actively trying to secure to bank as much as possible. Another thing we can do and currently work on is incentivizing people to change behavior. Most of that's going to be around landscaping and how we decorate our homes in the areas. But these are the areas that we can really focus on. But if you think about it, where does the pressure come from? It comes from growth and development. So the best tool we have is to try to reduce sprawl, buy open space purchases in the green fields, and try to get development, whatever there is going to be infill projects. And if we can reduce that growth, slow it down, then we have a chance.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we're going to go to the audience question portion. You all have written in the questions. We've divided them up here. We'll rotate, go back and forth. You will get 1 minute to answer each question. And I believe most of these, the ones that I have seen, are to everybody, so everyone will get a chance to respond.
The first question is from Joan in District 5. How will you work to prevent preliminary municipalities from building whatever they want, such as Browns Canyon?
And we'll start with Christie, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, fortunately, Canice said that one's not before us yet, but how the way to avoid projects like that is every project that comes before us, we have to be reviewing that project with a long-term view in mind. This is a long game. We have to be looking at a project and thinking about what's the impact of that project going to be on this community 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. Can our resources sustain it? Does our community want it? And is it the right kind of development in the right place at the right time? And that's how I would approach every development that comes before us. And as it relates to Browns Canyon, I would say that it's not the right development in the right place, maybe ever.
With respect to Browns Canyon, my understanding was they did have an application on the east side. Canice, you can correct me, you go next. But they had an application on the east side. They did apply for a new town. They missed it by one. They'll probably be applying next year because only 2 allowed per year. I think it goes back to dealing with the legislature, trying to tell that story, articulate our vision of what we want in our county, why planning is so important and land use control is so important for creating our future. So I think we need to spread that perspective, working with the legislature, use the legal tools, bring in the community. I think what happens is, we had the experience with Dakota Pacific. They forced it on us. If we continue to acquiesce, this will be the trend. So, it takes all tools. I would promote using all of those tools to make sure that we retain local control and that we have a seat at the table. So those are some of the steps that I would take to prevent developments such as Browns Canyon, which from a very high level seem absolutely inappropriate for what we want in this community. Thanks.
Preliminary municipalities are an issue for all counties in the state. There really isn't any county leadership that's happy with this idea. Currently, they're limited to 2 a year, and there's some requirements it has to meet. There's also some problems beyond just the sheer act of it being built. They have the ability, if they decide after they've built everything that they don't like their city, they can leave it to the county then to have. So the entire thing is problematic. And if the governor really wants to force a ton of housing, they can just make it so there's 30 of these a year could be approved. So all the real work that needs to happen is between us and the state level. And it's working with our state legislators. And it's either whether it's the smaller changes, trying to get the bills amended so that we can have it changed or reduced or hopefully eliminated. But I can tell you that we're united with all counties in the state against this.
Yes, I agree that working with UAC, working with our partners in dealing with these issues, again, I think the data center in Cache County has really raised the 500 alarms to the people who live in Utah and who are now understanding what can happen if, and without any say or any input from them. And a referendum in Cache County isn't going to make that go away. It would have done the same thing that the referendum here would have done, which was just to undo a county council vote of something that had already been decided. So absolutely strengthening and working with our UAC partners, our county councilors across the state, and bringing our issues, bringing our interests, our shared values to the legislature and the governor is critical.
All right. Mike in District 4 asks about housing that has transitioned from long-term rentals, primarily for local workers, to nightly rentals. Would it be a good idea to incentivize owners to keep their housing long-term and affordable? John.
I think we need to try all tools. I think it, starts with any of the new developments that we want to certainly disallow nightly rentals. I think it should be a focus that we're addressing the primary needs for anything new that's coming, restricting that to all of our availability. I know that Park City tried, in fact, I think I spoke about it recently with some of the councilors in Park City. They tried to put some capital towards that to buy down, basically nightly rental rights. It's very difficult to push against that private market where it's justified for an owner to give up rights in perpetuity for a financial incentive. I think we should certainly look at it, but I'm not sure we get a large number of units to turn over. I want to say they put $1 million towards it and couldn't even spend it. So I think we need to look at all the solutions in terms of nightly rental, restricting it, but I'm not sure the success on Park City. I'd like to revisit it. Worth talking about for sure. Thanks.
Canice?
The question was general about nightly rentals, long-term rentals, and incentivizing? Is that...
Yeah, incentivizing owners to keep their housing long-term and affordable.
I think the simple answer would be to say yes, we'd love to incentivize keeping long-term rentals in the market. Probably heard recently through the media that we're looking at a short-term rental policy. We actually have the tools in place right now that we can actually track where the short-term rentals are at and which ones are licensed and which ones are not. So that's something we're addressing currently. Long-term rentals, the other way we can address getting additional units would be through ADUs. And that's accessory dwelling units. Sorry to use the wonky term, but we have some other tools available to us. But yes, we want long-term rentals and we should incentivize it.
I agree. Anything that helps owners who want to provide housing and provide a long-term rental, that's great. And I'm familiar with some of the stuff that John was referring to with the city. They tried some ski pass or, there were some things that it wasn't just money. It was, you could get something else. And I don't know how effective that was, but I think in some ways there's a saturation point that it just doesn't become, and we might be there. I'd have to look at the data, but where it just doesn't make it worthwhile because the demand is so low for some of those nightly rentals. But we want to do everything we can for existing housing to be utilized for long-term housing.
Christie?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a plan that incentivizes owners, homeowners, as opposed to mandating is more effective. I think if we, and other communities have done this where they've incentivized through certain tax benefits, homeowners for putting their homes into long-term rentals versus short-term rentals. And I absolutely believe incentives are going to work much better than mandates.
Starting with Canice, this is also from Joan in District 5, regarding the recent purchase of Highland Flats for $3.1 million. Do you think that was a good way to spend open space dollars, and how should the county use this land?
Yeah, I was part of negotiating that, so yes, I think that was a good use of dollars. That land has been under immense amounts of pressure to be essentially overdeveloped. And it's not, say, very exciting for a lot of people when they look at it because it's right up against the highway, but what it offers is a decompression zone to the residential area. So we need these decompression areas. But we have the rights to go in and put in some of the allowed uses, which might be recreational, it might be for the horses, some things like this. But the entire reason we purchased that land was for the decompression into the residential area.
Yes, I mean, I recall, was it 6-7 years ago when there was a development proposal for that space and the residents of Highland Estates were deeply unhappy with what was going to be proposed to be built there. It was much too dense and it was going to bring a lot more people and traffic. So I do think it, I mean, then it just left people with the the owners of that land with, we can't really do anything with it. So I think it was a good use of the funds, and I think it does offer an opportunity. There are horses that hang out there now if you drive along, that they're from the Montessori school, I believe, but a dog park or some light use area for people to come over and use that space and keep it mostly the way it is.
So I have always looked at that parcel, and I have never thought, well, that is an amazing recreational parcel. We should buy that as open space. However, having said that, I have followed a lot of the proposals to put a lot of development on there, and that never made sense to me either. And I do absolutely see the benefit of the decompression zone in a parcel like that. If it meant we had to purchase that instead of something else, I wouldn't have been very excited about it, but I don't think that's what it means, and I think that there is a huge benefit to the community for having that decompression area there. And the horses.
Yeah, as a planning commissioner, I saw the Highland Flats proposal, listened to residents, understood their impacts. This is not a place where we should be putting a lot of development. Voted against that, obviously, for a negative recommendation to council. I think this was a good purchase. I'd love to look at the financial details and just sort of compare it. We do have limited resources. What are the other opportunities? I'm certain they looked at every opportunity to leverage open space dollars that were used for this. That would be the lens I would look through it. In particular, we're trying to get the best bang for our buck with every open space dollar spent. So with the, what's available, how much we have, what the opportunities are, that's kind of the lens I'd look through. This seems like a good purchase. I'd like to know I think there's another 25-acre parcel right below it. So there's still a little bit of a moving part. I'm sure they're, up to speed on what that looks like, but, it's not an appropriate place for densified development where you have Highland Drive. It's not the right place. So this seems like a reasonable buy, and I'm sure they had good information. Thanks.
All right. From Meredith?
Yes.
Okay. Amy from District 4 asks, please discuss plans, new measures for resident and pedestrian safety, specifically walking safety.
New plans?
What ideas do you have for pedestrian safety?
Okay. Well, as I live in Jeremy Ranch, and when the roundabouts got built in Jeremy and Pinebrook, which are amazing because you could not turn left ever off I-80, Jennifer Terry, who has since passed away, advocated and got the pedestrian underpass that connects those two neighborhoods. And that, I can't imagine that space without it. Kids can ride their bikes. People can run. If you live ever in District 5, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I think anything that we do going forward, any projects, the development here includes the bridge across to connect New Park over here. I think that would be very useful and make things less congested and clustered if you had a way to walk, because Kimball Junction's not super walkable. If you've been around here and you see people that still try to do it because they have to, but it does not lend itself to that at all. And I think when we redevelop, we should absolutely keep that in mind.
I'm still shocked by some of the disjointed trails and bike paths that exist that haven't yet been connected. I still see people on the west side of 224 at the canyons walking along the dirt where there is no path on the left side there. And that was one part. Also that I remember back from the Canyon Spa days that there was supposed to be a trail all the way up and down 224 there. But I still see people walking there, or they have to cross 224 where there's no crosswalk. And down at Kimball Junction, we used to not let our kids ride their bikes down there because it was great to get down there, but once you got there, the trails ended, and then you were funneled into a parking lot with a lot of traffic, and it was pretty treacherous for a walker biker. So I would like to see us connect some of the existing areas where trails are missing, and some of that's happening, but there's a lot of places where we can continue to do that and make it more walker biker friendly.
I think, safety, this is why planning is such a critical part of the process. Once you do it and you do it incorrectly, you do it wrong, it's there, it'll endure, probably through my kid's lifetime. You look at Kimball Junction, the mistakes that were made, the lack of connectivity. So where we have an opportunity, I think, is really on the planning and development side as we see new applications. Something I spent a lot of time on as a planning commissioner, focusing on that, listening to residents for best ideas of where traffic and how connectivity should really work. So I would work with that. Obviously, we should work with traffic and engineering departments within the county to work on solutions. And I'd love to hear from all of you. Give your best recommendations. The best we can do as one of 5 counselors is put it on our list, bring it up and say, hey, this needs attention. So whenever that engineering or traffic comes in, we try to address that. So that would be the lens I'd look through.
To a large extent, we have a lot of great assets in our trails, but we have a lot of work left to be done. When we take a look at different areas, so if we're talking, I think District 4 was where the question came out of, but just what part of District 4 are we looking at? Are we down in Kimball Junction? Are we up in kind of the residential areas like Ranch Place, et cetera? They have different experiences as you move around than as we move around District 5 and the rest of the county. So there is an active transportation plan. It's something that we're working on now. Something I'd like to see us do is also improve the current trails, whether it's shade structures, vegetation, whatever that is that can make it a better experience for someone when they're out and about on the trails. But we need to improve it. If 224 is now getting 10 feet wider with the 2 bus lanes that are going in, how are people from Sun Peak getting over to the school? Like, how do you cross 224? It seems pretty dangerous right now. We've already had fatalities there. So we have a lot of work to be done still, but we also have a lot of great trails, so we can start to work to improve this.
Okay, thank you. That's all the time we have for audience questions, but I'm sure they'll be available to answer more of your questions. I want to make sure you all have time for closing statements. So each one of you will get 1 minute now for a closing statement, and then we'll be over and wrap everything. So I believe we are starting with Christie, yes? For closing statements. Great. You will have 1 minute whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. So I was asked to run for this council for District 4 seat by current council member Chris Robinson, the county attorney Margaret Olson, and a couple of former council members. And the reason they approached me is because I have spent a career making really difficult decisions about complex issues. Every day I sit in a room with 2 parties across from me that have very different ideas about what they want to have happen. They may have been fighting for years in litigation, and I negotiate and help people find solutions to their problems. And that's what I've done for 30 years. That's what I do really well, and that's why I was recruited and asked to run. It's what the council needs right now is leadership, judgment, governance, experience, and independence. Is that the end?
Sorry. That is, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Look, I absolutely love where we live. I think we're at a critical moment for the county. There are tremendous growth pressures. We have increasing financial complexity. I'm going to bring a differentiated skill set. I have over 2 decades of financial decision-making experience. I've acted as a fiduciary. I'll bring fiscal responsibility to council. And I also have a track record I served for 6 years. I came every other Tuesday to this room to act on behalf of residents, to listen to what they had to say, to mitigate impacts, to oppose overdevelopment, and you'll see more of the same from me. I'm excited about the opportunities to manage growth, protect the natural environment, address our community needs with transportation and transit. Ultimately, my goal as counselor will be to listen to residents, to ask tough questions, to conduct the public's business in an open and transparent manner, to represent all of you, the residents of this county, to make the best decisions possible with all information available, with an overarching lens of ensuring that the Snyderville Basin and Summit County remain an exceptional place to live, work, and play. That's my objective. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. As stated earlier, my name is Canice Harte. I'm currently the chair of the Summit County Council. I have just now finishing up my 4th year on the council. I would like to get a second term. I believe the experience that I'm carrying forward would be beneficial. We have one council member currently on our council who has just over a year and a half experience. You have 2 of us with 3 years experience, and then Chris will be leaving, so there goes our bulk of our experience, and we're going to bring on a new council member as well. So I think experience really matters right now. I'm currently the liaison for the Olympics 2034. I work on open space. I'm your transportation person, and I'm working on preserving as much of the quality of life that we love here as I possibly can. Hope my legacy by the end of this will be that I will have preserved more open space than any other council member.
Thank you all for being here tonight and engaging in this process, because this is really important stuff that we're talking about. And thank you to KPCW and Park Record for hosting it. When you look at the challenges that are facing Summit County, from managing the regional growth, all the things that we've been talking about tonight, infrastructure, housing, it's really clear that the quality of our leadership matters. And we cannot rely on defensive politics or passive governance. We need principled, skills-based leadership that is ready to go on day one. I understand how deeply local government impacts every part of our daily lives. And I know how to bring people together and get things done. If you elect me to Summit County Council, my commitment to you is simple. I will work for you. I will lead with accessibility and an approach that puts our neighbors at the center of our decision-making. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. I want you to know that ballots have already gone out in the mail, so if you haven't received it, you should already be receiving it. The last day to request a ballot is June 16th and June 12th. Oh my gosh, my notes, I'm so sorry. June 12th, 5 p.m., fake news, I apologize. So request your ballots if you haven't already, and the election is June 23rd.